Hey there, Randy Ciordia from Wolf Martial Arts, also Chicago Jeet Kune Do. I'm inspired by one of the other instructors who was showing a drill, I guess about a month or so ago. Randy from Valor, JKD, we kind of call each other twins since we're both Randy. But he did a drill, we called it like the 6 phases of his SDA punch or his jab. And I really liked it. And I teach something very similar. So I started thinking, well, what is it that I do a little bit differently? And while we have some similarities, there are some differences, and I figured I would share that with you guys. So I'm going to have my student here, Brian, sign the bits for me, and I'm going to talk about how you progress through these stages of development, okay, of trying to get a better SDA jab. And in this regard, you know, we have different types of ways that we'll punch. You have like a ping choi or the horizontal fist, and I'm going to use the chung choi because for me it's very quick. I tend to land it a lot in my sparring. And I've developed it over the course of 32 plus years of training. So when I have Brian here, the first thing that I want to do, just a little closer, is talk about how I deliver the technique. So mechanically, okay, if I'm stationary, my hand should be the first thing that moves. I shouldn't lift my shoulder. That would be a telegraph. I shouldn't flare out my elbow. I shouldn't turn my hip or pivot the foot here. Because if I do any of that, and by the time I punch, that is the last thing happening. My opponent will move out of the way or defend faster or intercept me himself if he has that training. So the idea is that the hand would move first. So if I'm here, hand moves first. If you also notice, my hands are not even. I'm not fighting like this. Since I have a right lead, I get my right hand out in front, and I tend to create 2 channels where these hands can defend themselves this way. So I'll bring this a little closer to my target, and my opponents don't realize I'm doing that. Okay, so I'm getting that a little bit closer instead of this, back this way. If I were in trouble and I was boxing, I'd cover, I'd do that. So here we go. I'm going to start with the first one, which is just stationary with pivot. So I'm going to train the mechanics. This is what I would teach a beginner. If I'm here, relax this hand. This is going to stay here in guard, and I do that. So if you see, when I hit and I pull back, I don't reset my mechanics with the punch. I don't want to go 1, 2, 1, 2. Don't do that. Instead, I reset the arm, and then I'll reset the foot. And of course, I can do both quickly, but they can be independent of each other. Okay? Like that. Switch sides, please. Okay, switch back. So the key thing is, if you notice, and I was correcting some students earlier, is that I try not to do this and draw the hand back. A lot of people feel like they're like drawing a bow. It's not that. This hand's very relaxed. I'm just going to defend. And in case I missed, this hand is still here to defend if I get hit back. The other thing that I'll say is how I recover my hand is like punching down a tube straight towards my target and straight back, as opposed to doing things where I drop the hand or I swing the arm out, kind of in a very, very stylistic way. Try to avoid doing it, okay? So that is number 1, just stationary.